Hello, guys. So we are meeting each other once again during a Matteo Berrettini match. I promise I'm not some sort of crazy Matteo Berrettini fanboy. It's actually John who suggested it. He wanted the Hoff, but it's not the Knight Rider that's going to be appearing on our screens today. It's actually Yannick Hanfmann who's playing Matteo Berrettini, one of the altitude clay experts, a former runner-up in Kitzbühel, and I do think that he has a very good shot at Matteo today. Yes, this week so far, the Italian has been winning his matches relatively comfortably. It was what, two tiebreaks, one tiebreak, and one set without a tiebreak. So when I say relatively comfortably, I do mean it. It's a tiebreak, it's a lottery, I guess, but he's been close to making it as little, as not as much of a lottery as it has to be, basically. However, Hanfmann is deadly. Hanfmann is really good in these conditions. He has a very aggressive clay game, has that lovely second serve kick, which also gets accentuated in on courts like this. I actually haven't turned on the sound now, I see, so I will do it now, but turned off. But yeah, I do think that Hanfmann is very live in this match. If he wins it, he will return to the top 100 in the live rankings. I would have to check if it's already mathematically safe that he would remain there as well after about a month of absence. Yesterday it wasn't yet. But anyway, yeah, he's got a good shot at returning to the top 100 if he wins this match. They've never played each other, so it's also pretty fun from that perspective. I mean, Matteo, when he was trying to go back to back this year, back to back runs, back to back finals, it wasn't generally working out. After Phoenix, he had that horrible performance against Andy in Miami. After Marrakesh, he had a similarly distasteful performance against Kecmanovic at Monte Carlo. It was better on grass, for sure, with it being less physical. I think altitude clay kind of compares to grass, for sure, in that sense as well. It's, the pace of play here is so fast, but definitely not as, still more taxing than grass courts. But yeah, when it comes to grass, it was a bit better. He made the final in Stuttgart, then played 2 matches in Halle and was okay, but lost to Giron. And here, of course, he's been doing much better as he's already into the semifinals. In fact, he already tried doing the Gstaad Kitzbühel double once in 2018 after he won Gstaad. That was his first ATP Tour title. And then he lost to someone in the quarterfinals in Kitzbühel. I don't remember right now. I just wanted to say that he lost in the quarterfinals. But yeah, so he's already a step further now. 8 matches won in a row, 16 sets as well. Although, as I said, many of them have been tie breaks. In fact, 5 of them this week even, and I think 3 in Gstaad. So yeah, it hasn't been easy. And this first game so far on the Hanfmann serve hasn't been easy for Berrettini either. Yannick just hitting a couple of great serves to really kick things off, and he is hoping to get this one done to love now. There's that second serve kicker, but this one wasn't as flamboyant as sometimes the Hanfmann kick serve can be. And yeah, all 4 semifinalists in Kitzbühel by now, they are actually unseeded. We lost Sebastian Baez yesterday out of the seeds. We lost Hanfmann, Seibo Wild, and Berrettini Moreno de Alboran was already a battle of unseeded players. But we also lost Pedro Martinez. So it's going to be like a slightly unexpected winner, I guess. But, if we were looking at the draw in Kitzbühel just before it started, I think Berrettini was definitely one of the favorites. Hanfmann loves these courts. Made the final in Gstaad 2017, made the final in Kitzbühel 2020. These are his only ATP Tour finals. But given his form, probably weren't looking at him to really make the semis or anything. He got a bit lucky with the Echeverry withdrawal as well. He played Gustavo Haida in the second round instead. Whereas when it comes to the bottom half of the draw, Hugo Gaston making just his second ATP Tour semi, and also in this part of the season, actually, Gstaad 2021 was his previous when he lost in the final to Ruud. And Facundo Diaz Acosta, I think he was winless since Barcelona. So again, not really an expected semi-finalist, but the conditions suit him as well. Of course, earlier in the year, he was the Buenos Aires champion. Buenos Aires sea level, definitely much slower than here. But yeah, basically any clay you throw Diaz Acosta on, he can be good at. And yeah, let's see if we see any signs of accumulated fatigue for Berrettini today. This first forehand was pretty sloppy, but of course, we're not going to be rating that or based on just one shot. But yeah, I do think that Hanfmann has a very good shot today. I didn't watch Berrettini against Moreno d'Alboran yesterday. I hear that it was pretty, it was a pretty tough ordeal, let's say. I did watch Berrettini against Tabilo on stream here, of course, and that was not easy at all. Tabilo basically double faulted at 4-all in the first set tiebreak, and it was the only mini break. So yeah, that was literally what killed him in that tiebreak. And in the second set, Matteo was 5-2 up. Tabilo came back. Tabilo was really threatening to be back in this match when he had a breakpoint at 5-games-all in the second set. But the Italian sort of saved himself in time and won yet another tiebreak. And against Pavel Kotov in the opening round, Berrettini was also briefly in trouble in one of the sets. But I do mean it when I say briefly. That's a pretty sensational forehand on the run from Berrettini, kind of telling us already that if there's going to be any signs of fatigue, it's not yet. It's not a shot that I think he even usually goes for out of that position, but this time he executes it perfectly, and Hanfmann cannot quite scramble to it. And this will be a pretty quick game for Berrettini as well. That one sloppy forehand error for 15-all, or bluff 15 was it? But I think it was for 15-all. But yeah, doesn't really mean much in the end. We also have already the first doubles finalists in Kitzbühel. That is, of course, Konstantin Franzen and Hendrik Jebens into their second ATP Tour final after Metz 2023. Still a lot more ATP action today. The WTA is wrapping up their events in Jassy and in Prague. Currently, Linette French and later Andrieva Danilovic. ATP is still mostly on the semis, although in Atlanta they're into the quarters because they don't need to care about the Olympics. No one playing Atlanta is playing the Olympics. So they can be a step behind here. But yeah, today also the semifinals in Umag, but that's much later in the day. A very entertaining though as well. Andrei Rublev, Francisco Cerundolo, and Jakub Menšík, Lorenzo Musetti, both looking pretty much 50-50 to me. Hanfmann playing some really nice front foot tennis so far after his serve. He will need to keep it kind of nice and snappy, but obviously he's got all the potential tools to do it. Berrettini kind of like squatting after this failed slice, but yeah. Was just rogue footed there and kind of lost his balance. Hanfmann approaching the net. What a lovely forehand half volley into the service box. No chance to catch it. That will definitely be a play as well for Yannick today. Server volleying either after a powerful, flatter first serve or after that ridiculous kick that I mentioned earlier. And so far, he hasn't lost a point on serve. Let's see if he can maintain that over the course of 2 games. Once again, he's serving volleying. The backhand half volley is not quite as good, but I think Matteo, has he made it? I guess he has. Must have been like strictly on the line. There was a bit of confusion for both players who were unsure if to go to the bench or if to keep at it, if to come back behind the baseline. But turns out everything is, turns out it's just 40-15. But the game goes to Hanfmann anyway with an unreturned serve. And we've got 2-1 Hanfmann so far. As I mentioned when I was doing Berrettini Tabilo, another match really we are expecting to be very serve oriented. Breaks are going to be few and not often. So definitely let's get ready for these easy holds to be a bit of a theme today. For both players, of course, the serves are a big part of their game. And especially in these conditions, they tend to blast through their holds quite easily. But yeah, 2-1 up now. Berrettini, as I mentioned, this is Hanfmann. This is, as I mentioned, their first meeting. I didn't really remember any Berrettini Hanfmann much, but I was thinking, they might have interacted somewhere. But I guess Yannick has never really been that sort of like a super consistent threat on the main tour. I mean, he's had his patches here or there, but before last year, he was never really like around the top 50 and stuff. So I suppose it makes sense that they never really bumped into each other, as last year was literally when Matteo was, well, almost off the tour. So yeah, their opportunities to potentially face each other were actually not that common. The second semi, Gaston Diaz Acosta, that's actually one where the guys have played a few times. This year in Hamburg, in fact, last week, Hugo Gaston defeated Facundo Diaz Acosta. Diaz Acosta also got him at the Challenger last year, I think, and they played the final of the Youth Olympic Games back in 2018, which is pretty funny considering, this week, essentially this week, we are starting the Olympic Games as well. Is Baez playing Olympics? Yes, he is. What happened to him yesterday? I mean, he lost in 3 hours to Gaston. Baez is about like 50% win rate on European clay this year. I mean, he just isn't that good. And I don't think he'll be a big threat at the Olympics either. He's got Monteiro right away, which is already dangerous, but I don't think he has any shot at beating Tsitsipas, and that's the seed closest to him. So that's why it's important. Hot favorite for this title now, Berrettini. If he doesn't lose today, probably. But yeah, we'll see how fatigue sort of affects him, if it affects him, in fact. And yeah, I mean, Hanfmann is super deadly. This is if there's a court in the world where you don't want to play Yannick Hanfmann, it's either the center court in Kitzbühel or the center court in Gstaad. So I think this to me is practically a 50-50 match. I mean, just going to be lots of quick holds, and whoever takes the opportunities will win. So far, of course, Berrettini has been very good at that sort of game the past couple of weeks, but it can't last forever, right? Someone is going to win a tiebreak against Matteo Berrettini sometime soon. And well, it might as well be Yannick Hanfmann. Why not? So far, we've got Hanfmann, this 30-15 point. He's kind of dominating it. And yeah, that's some really crisp ball striking to get that point done. Pushed Matteo White to the forehand corner and then just into the other direction of the backhand. No sense in going like super close to the line or anything. Really good stuff, and 30 all. So the first kind of pressure moment of the match happens on the Italians' delivery. If Berrettini would win this title, that goal of potentially being seeded for the US Open would become very real. I don't know how strict Matteo is in regards to that. I mean, if you've been out for such a long while, he probably doesn't really look at it yet, right? I mean, the main goal has to be just to stay healthy and keep playing for about a year, for example. But yeah, I think obviously it would really help. At Wimbledon, we had kind of the perfect display of how important that seeding at slams is. He doesn't land in the Sinner second round, and who knows, maybe he makes the fourth round, the quarters. I don't think he was really ever a title contender, but we saw that some of the sections were extremely weak. So let's imagine that Matteo Berrettini lands in the first quarter, for example. Sorry, the third quarter, right? And then what? Is he a semi-final contender? He could be. Was he already sort of fit enough at the time to make the semifinals potentially? That's something we don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's just simply a possibility we cannot really exclude based on the quality of play he presented there. And just his usual affection with grass, if you may, and with clay courts. 9 ATP Tour titles by now on the for Berrettini, and he's got 5 on clay, 4 on grass, still no on hard courts. Hanfmann isn't okay with something on his racket. He's like kind of trying to fix the strings quickly. I'm not really sure what he's doing, but he isn't changing it anyway. Yesterday in Chicago, there was a fun match between Atman and Fernley, and basically like 2 points away from winning the match, Atman hit his racket at something and at the ground, I think. I don't remember precisely. And he kind of like didn't break it fully, but it wasn't also like 100%. It was like a little bent, and I think one of the strings was a little loose, but he still played the next point with it somehow. And I think it was breakpoint down, in fact. And Fernley, after Atman won the point, he went to the chair, and the chair just said, "I mean, yeah, it doesn't really classify as something we can code because he played the point with the racket, so it was clearly fine-ish." I don't know if Atman did it specifically because of that, like did he really just play the point because he didn't want the code? I really don't know. But in the end, actually, Atman ended up losing this point at the game. I mean, this game and the match. The point that he played with the slightly broken racket, he actually won. I had a racket once that was like kind of really bent after a while, probably because of some of the damage I inflicted upon it over the years, and it was fine to play with. I don't think anyone would restring it really, but it was fine to play with. I did play with it, even though it was a bit bent for quite a while. Anyway, here Matteo has the first point in a Hanfmann service game. Got an error with the slice there. What a crazy rally here. Hanfmann did everything right with that slice approach, then the softer volley, but then he misjudged the Berrettini lob. He was thinking that this was going to go out from Matteo, so he chose to run behind it and, well, plays it behind his back into the court. But Berrettini is at the net and just picks it up. This was not between the legs from Hanfmann. This was actually behind his back. Oh, no, sorry. It was actually between the legs. Never mind. From the initial feed, I thought it was behind his back for some reason. Anyway, no, this was between the legs. Sorry for the misinformation, fake news and stuff. But yeah, other way, in any way, he that actually did misjudge that Berrettini lob, and he lost the point because of it. So it's low 30 now. And it will even be low 40. There's a heavy forehand rally. Berrettini is probably going to do slightly better in these. And yeah, after these 2 rapid fire holds that Hanfmann had earlier, now he is in trouble. He's the first player to have to save breakpoints in this match. We'll see how he handles that. So far, no 3 points. Did everything right on that low 30 point, but then misjudged the lob. So Tabilo, I think, got out of a low 40 against Berrettini at the beginning of the second set. But of course, that doesn't really mean all that much. And yeah, that's going to be an error from Hanfmann. That was not a great game from him, although Berrettini did also interfere for sure. The way that he chased down that volley still lobbed him. The way that he also got one of the errors from him with the slice. Here, just putting a good return in. A couple of times winning that heavy forehand cross-court rally with Hanfmann as well. So yeah, it's a break to love for Berrettini, actually. And a very nice start to the opening set for him. Yeah, here we have a replay of that return from Berrettini. Actually, decent depth on the backhand. Hanfmann trying to follow it up in the same direction, but he misses it by a tiny bit. So it's 3 to Berrettini with a break to love. That escalated quickly. Shelton did lose to Shang, yes. already in Lisbon. Any food I look forward to having in Portugal? No. I mean, I'll be having the usual food. I don't suppose there'll be something for us at the event. I'm not expecting it, at least at the Challenger. If there is, then maybe some snacks. So I mean, I'll just be making food. So yeah, there's nothing really that I'm expecting from that. Rude not to have Super Bock. Is that like a beer or something? Sagres I already know because of John. That has to be unique to be a lot better on clay and grass compared to hardcourt. It's not that unique. I mean, you've got like Ons Jabeur, for example, Lorenzo Musetti, for example, variety players generally, and like guys who just move well on natural surfaces. The slice for Berrettini does sort of come into play as well. It's not super rare, but well, I mean, for a lot of players behind the, let's say, 100 range, it's just tough to say like where they are really best at in terms of grass courts, because they barely play on them, right? But yeah, I think it mostly just comes in with the players who like really like to produce a lot of variety, and just the drop shots, right? Drop shot is by far the most effective on both clay and grass, rather than hard court. So I think it makes sense that there are players like this. But that's not to say that Berrettini is awful on hard courts, right? I mean, just he never won a title, but he's had deep runs at slams. I mean, for Berrettini, I don't think it's ever really a consideration. And the same with Ons, actually. Like, people try to call her a natural surface specialist, but she made the US Open final, right? Musetti, I think, right now might be the best example we have, actually. And yeah, Ben Shelton lost to Yuncheng Shang, third time in a row. I did not watch that much this week. I am trying to go to bed before 4 a.m. So, oh, sorry. So I decided to skip it. But yes, third time in a row. Last year, of course, Jerry beat him twice in this very part of the season. Once in Atlanta, and the other was what? I don't even remember by now. Was it like Toronto, or was it Washington? I don't know. But yeah, 3-0 now in the head-to-head over Shelton. And Shelton has been losing to a lot of players like this. Manarino, French, right? Of course, I'd say French, Australia, of course. Manarino, very much more tricky and just kind of even weirder than Shang's game, but that's sort of lefty, lots of good hand skills. Yeah, it's a problem for Ben and his super low margin game. For about 3 sets, Bellucci was outplaying him as well at Wimbledon, right? That's a similar profile, I guess, to Shank, more or less. It's not the same, but somewhat similar. Bellucci as well in the Atlanta quarterfinals will play Arthur Rinderknecht later today. Jerry is playing Max Purcell, Jordan Thompson against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, and there's also Frances Tiafoe against Yoshihito Nishioka. A Shank Bellucci final would be just gold in terms of watchability, but I don't know how likely it is, given that Mattia especially has a pretty poor matchup with Rinderknecht, I think, and Jerry could also play Davidovich Fokina in the semis, and that's an opponent that's been causing him a lot of trouble when they played. So, but yeah, Berrettini now 4-2 up. Hanfmann unable to produce much on return. I've been talking about the Hanfmann kick serve, but the second serve of Berrettini isn't that bad either. In fact, in Gstaad, I think when I was looking at the stats, he was winning a ton of his second serve points. I did not check them for Kitzbühel yet, but I suppose that they're similarly impressive. I would assume. Of course, only actually 3 matches by now rather than 2 matches. I wanted to say so. It's a decent sample. And I think if we check it, especially considering he's barely been losing his serve as well, I would assume he's got a lot of points won on his second serve in this very event too. In fact, I will do it in just a moment. Or do I not have it on my email? Maybe I don't. Anyway, Hanfmann really needs to, get himself back into this. Try to stop the streak that Berrettini is carefully sort of crafting onto him here. Oh, I actually don't have it on my email, it seems. Never mind then. Whatever. I'm not gonna do it manually right now. Anyway, love 15, Hanfmann. Can the second set, can the first set stop running away from him like this quickly? That's the question. Net court from Berrettini, it should allow Yannick to step in, and yeah, he does it with a beautiful drop shot. Wonderful disguise on that. Really extended the motion as much as humanly possible. But it does the trick. Berrettini was fooled. And he finally gets a point on serve after a streak of 5. Needs to get more and more of these easy first serve points that he was getting earlier, but Berrettini is returning so well right now. I really don't know what he's supposed to do if Berrettini is blocking all these returns like that. I mean, maybe don't serve to his forehand is the answer, but yeah, then a nice counter, sort of similar to that forehand on the run that Berrettini played earlier. Hanfmann not too athletic there in that corner, trying to push it right back. So yeah, so far the German is in trouble since 2 games all, and things aren't clearing up. Now he uses that trademark kick serve so well, even on the first delivery, just to set up that +1 forehand into the other corner, and it's really a stunner here. The girlfriend or whoever, really, I'm not sure what his love life is like, but the girlfriend probably seems to be extremely pleased with this point. After all, it's the bread and butter of Hanfmann, so if she's been watching him for some time, then she's definitely used to points like this. Hanfmann takes my advice and is not serving at the Berrettini forehand here now on the outside, but he's still gonna lose the point. The backhand unforced error, so we are very close to a 5-2 lead for Matteo, which would, well, essentially mean set over. Moreno de Alboran was able to keep it so close yesterday just by virtue of having a good serve, but Hanfmann so far is not doing it, despite the first 2 games looking so promising. But it's an us down the T. When we're in Germany or in Austria, we can call it us, and YouTube cannot claim us. YouTube cannot come in and say, no, that's not right. We are just talking about aces. Or even aces if there's more than one. Serve and volley from Hanfmann should be able to put the smash away. Yes, and he's got the advantage now to potentially still make us believe that this first set is not done. And probably to give himself a lot more belief as well, given that things have not been looking that great the last 10 or 15 minutes. One more point, though, to really make sure that he stays within touching distance of Matteo. Ooh, that forehand error was, I can't say in the Alps or anything. Yeah, that did not go out of the stadium, but it most certainly did not find the court either. Do I think I look the cutest in green? I don't think I ever really paid attention to what I'm wearing. This is my streaming shirt. As in, for the past 3 days, I've only been wearing it while streaming, and I'm not wearing it in any other capacity. So that's why you might be seeing me again in that green shirt. But yeah, I don't really know if I have any colors that. I know I'm a traditionalist. I'm a traditionalist in this regard, but you struggle to understand as to why I think tennis balls always have to be this color. I mean, why would we change it? I'm a believer in if it's working, why touch it? And I think that tennis balls are perfectly fine the way they are. The whole world knows that tennis balls are yellow. Are yellow. In fact, some people try to claim they're green, but don't listen to these people. But yeah, I do think that the whole world knows about it. So like, why change it? I don't know if I'm a traditionalist. I wouldn't be angry if someone changed the color of the balls, but why? I mean, my only question is why. Recently in table tennis, for example, they changed the rules when it comes to the colors of the rubbers. So now you only need to have one black rubber and the other has to be a different color. They need to be separate because the opponent needs to know which rubber you're playing with in case you have two different rubbers. And basically, what that means is that now you have like blue rubbers, green rubbers, and I don't mind, but like, why? And I actually know why, right? I mean, they just want to sort of spice up the business and sell these colored rubbers. So it's basically for the money. And yeah, I think it's senseless. I just don't really see the purpose of it. Hanfmann saving a breakpoint here with this ballsy drop shot. Berrettini catching it but throwing out the slice. I mean, if it landed, Hanfmann would have still had a lot of time, but it's never easy. The net presence from Berrettini could have made a difference for sure. But can he finally claim that game? A different ball looks better on a different surface, for example, for viewing purposes. I have never struggled with seeing a tennis ball. I don't really understand that whatsoever. So, yeah, if it's the case for somebody, if they decide to change it, as I said, I'm not gonna be the first to like cry about it and say, no, this isn't the tennis I grew up watching. I will not. I won't care. I literally have no opinion on this because I just come here to watch the tennis, and the color of the balls is totally irrelevant to my viewing experience. So just like the color of the court is also totally irrelevant to my viewing experience. Any interesting doubles pairs in Porto? Truth be told, I haven't looked at the list too much. I know Drzewiecki and Matuszewski are supposed to be playing it after Verona, where they have a great chance for the title. They are in the semifinals already, and well, they would have to switch from clay to hard courts pretty quickly. But of course, the Porto 1-5 is pretty weak for 1-5, as we mentioned the other day. So I think it's worth it, if you know what I mean. I think it's definitely worth switching quickly because yeah, you can get a lot of points. But yeah, let me look at the list. Of course, we don't have the on-site sign-ups yet. Matsuya Uesugi, yeah, that's always a pleasure, right? To watch them. Arends and Johnson, they outrank the field a lot. Of course, that's going to be a quality pairing, even though they don't have that much experience playing with each other. Otherwise, Jisung Nam, Rubin Stata. I mean, for like a hipster challenger doubles fan, that might be okay. But yeah. I mean, out of the pairings that we have for now, I think Matsuya Uesugi are the biggest draw for me. And of course, Zhevesky, Matuszewski. I mean, I'll watch their matches as well. I'll clap a little even, but yeah, not going there to do it. But I'll have to sort of just so they aren't angry at me. But yeah, I mean, it does obviously increase my excitement for the doubles event as well. There's a Polish pair involved, sure. And who in the sort of entire world isn't rooting for Toshihide Matsui, right? I mean, Toshihide Matsui is like the Paul Lim of tennis. If anyone knows who Paul Lim is, then they will get the reference, and I think they will also say, yeah, that makes sense. Paul Lim is this Singaporean darter who is literally like as old as time. He's like 67 by now or something like that. Still keeps a decent level. I mean, I can't say he's one of the best players in Asia, but yeah, anytime he shows up, he's like universally loved, even though he's super slow. Like, yeah, literally one of the slowest players right now in the professional scene. And even though, I mean, yeah, people just absolutely love him just because he's old and kind of looks like, like a nice guy. And I think it's a bit similar with Matsui. Like, people just want to see the age records get broken. Anyway, Berrettini is serving at 4-3, 15 all. Let's see if Hanfmann, after that long game, has fired himself up for a potential break or not. Maybe. It's a double fault from Matteo. The serve clips the net and it lands out. So the German might have something to say here. It's the third time he's in the semifinals in Kitzbühel. In 2020, he lost to Kecmanovic in the final. Kecmanovic, that was his first ATP title. In 2022, he lost to Filip Misolic, who was the surprise package of that event, making the final and losing to Bautista Agut. And now he's playing in 2024, losing to Mr. Berrettini. Ooh, 30 all now. As Matteo finds an ace. So far, three of them coming his way, two from Hanfmann. I think against Tabilo, Berrettini won the ace contest like 13-7. So yeah, it was really blasting away there. My bank is sending me messages that I should buy a house. I don't think they checked my balance before they said that. I mean, I guess they just want me to like get a loan. Oh my! I thought that this Berrettini passing shot was surely good enough, and in fact, I mean, probably not that much control that Hanfmann had over the stretch volley on the forehand, but it just barely goes over the net, and it's gonna be a break point for the German, first in the match. What a shot! Just died on his racket, really. I was thinking it's probably not gonna go over, but it just did. How will Berrettini respond? He will respond with an ace or an as, since we're in Austria. But yeah, it's pretty much the same serve as when he won the 15-30 breakpoint. So serving, keeping Berrettini in this game so far. The two crucial points on the outside, he saved them both with massive serves down the tee. A friend of mine on Twitter called these events Kitzbühel and Gstaad irrelevant altitude events a couple of days ago, and that friend is a big fan of the Golden Swing. So, I mean, just have some decency. I mean, both are somewhat irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, but every single tennis event is relevant for the players involved there. Is it relevant for Matteo Berrettini? Oh yeah. Is it relevant for Yannick Hanfmann? Maybe even more so. Is it relevant for Hugo Gaston? Of course. And for Facundo Diaz Acosta as well. Facundo Diaz Acosta especially cheated out of the Olympics in a way. Maybe I'm stretching a bit, but I don't like that rule and how it works. But anyway, 5-3 Berrettini, a couple of big serves again. So yeah, Berrettini was in trouble in this game. Berrettini for the first time was really struggling, but the serve kept him in it, and it really like did have the work. Especially these two aces down the tee at 15-30 and 30-40. Like that was just so crucial. So yeah, there's some hope for Hanfmann after this game for sure. I mean, he's gonna be looking at it a bit more positively. I think he had his chances, or like a chance. Not like he got a proper opportunity to take it. Really, I mean, it was just unbeatable. But and what also Hanfmann is doing pretty well here is trying to approach to the Berrettini backhand if possible. I think these approaches could get a bit better. Like the one in the previous game, which he caught with the forehand stretch volley, like that was a good pass from Berrettini off the backhand, which already kind of tells you that the approach was probably not perfect. And this one was even worse. Berrettini, in fact, hits a backhand passing shot winner cross court. So, ooh, but that's smart from Hanfmann, delaying that +1 forehand so late, and just seeing where Berrettini goes to put it away without any potential chance of a miss. That's really, really good. So 15 all now. And another nice point from Hanfmann, just a good serve, +1, pretty much at the middle, but that's a good direction to go for. I mean, it really leaves the opponents optionless sometimes. It was so unclear what Berrettini can actually produce of that ball, especially as he was also wrong-footed in the process. So 40-15 Hanfmann. Let's see if he can get that game done. Not yet, as the serve is just a bit wide. But yeah, Hanfmann looking decent to potentially ask the question once more of Berrettini. And a short return goes at the Berrettini forehand this time, but it's justified. As again, he's just kind of playing at the middle slash, elbow, if you even may, of Berrettini. So 5-4 Matteo, and after the change of ends, he's going to serve for the opening set for the first time. Had a breakpoint earlier, or maybe even a couple, to potentially go 5-2 up, but Hanfmann saved it, then had a breakpoint of his own. Matteo came up with that clutch serve, so uh, who has more of an elite serve between Hurkacz and Berrettini? I mean, last year Hurkacz was definitely the best server on tour. I still think it's Hurkacz. I think Berrettini's ground game is much better, but yeah, I would say that Berrettini isn't really like a top 2-3 server. It's probably Hurkacz, Bublik, Opelka, right? And then you would probably swoop in with Berrettini. I'm not really counting like Raonic anymore. What do we have here? Paul Lim, first player to hit a televised nine darter, sort of. I think it was John Lowe, but he's the first player to hit a nine darter at the World Championship in 1990. And then in 2018 against Gary Anderson, he got another chance. This is one video that like every single darts fan still rewatches and hopes that the double 12 goes in. I think Gary was also hoping that the double 12 goes in. Like it would have been just the most insane story in the world, if he hit the first nine darter in a World Championship, and then 28 years later he repeated it. But yeah, didn't end up going in. But yeah, an absolute legend, and just a guy that's impossible not to like. What do I think about Avanesian against Andreeva today? Relatively excited. I don't actually know where it starts, so I don't know if I'll be able to catch it. I think they play a pretty similar game, in fact. Just the amount of variety they produce off the ground and kind of never really going for the same shot. Of course, Avanesian is even more known for that and all the moonballing, the variation of spin height. So I think Mira probably has one of the best skill sets to handle her game, I would assume, because yeah, she can do the all the trickery herself as well, right? So I think just in terms of like technical level, the skill set, I think she's ready for Avanesian more than some other players on the tour are. But yeah, I understand how it's like pretty tricky to play the Russian. Avanesian, I mean, they're both Russian, of course. Have we discussed Habib? Can you tell us about him? Hadi Habib is a college player. I mean, former college player, of course, from Lebanon. He got into the top 300 basically on ITF results. Like he got there kind of, out under the radar, I would say. He's not too impressive. He went recently to South America to play these Challenger 50s. And basically, what happened there was that he made a final, lost to Lingua Lavayan, but the level in these events was like not really close to what we see in European challengers generally. So yeah, I don't have any expectations for him against Alcaraz. He has like a pretty decent forehand, but yeah, I think Hassan is the better Lebanese singles player for sure. Lots more experience as well at this higher level. I think more talent just in general as well. But looks like Khabib will be a solid player and probably stay in that 300-ish ranking range for a while at least. Tomasz Berkieta's biggest win on tour, Ali Habib, so far at least. And also he won these like Arab games or something like that a couple of years ago at the end of the year, beating Jaziri. That was pretty fun too. It was like televised in December. I don't remember which college he played for. I was also talking about Habib somewhere yesterday, and I have to check that because I don't remember. Wasn't he like maybe? Nah, I don't remember. I have to check. Texas A&M. Okay, so like Rinderknecht or Vachereau. Aye, aye, aye. First point of the game was Berrettini forehand unforced error cross court, but now he's back at it and he's gonna have two set points. Got himself back together like really quickly, so looks like Matteo is really going towards that first set here. And yeah, just keeps gunning at Hanfmann. When he had that one breakpoint to save, he fended it off easily. And he fires an ace as well. 6-4. Was that a closer set than the scoreline suggests? I think it's pretty much right what the scoreline tells us here. Hanfmann did have that breakpoint right back. I mean, right back. He did have that breakpoint at 3-4, but then again, he also could have been down two breaks, right? So, yeah, I think it's relatively close. If we're looking at the stats, Berrettini winning 85% on the first serve, Hanfmann just 62, and I think Yannick will kind of need to get more 3 points in if he's thinking of winning this match. Like if Matteo is getting this much play on return, it's going to be tricky for him to keep up with the Italian. Wobbly gets a lot of free aces, but when the first set doesn't land, he's susceptible to getting broken, although his hold percentage is a bit misleading, given he tends to tank a set once he drops serve. I mean, Bublik, we cannot really look at it in terms of like first serve, second serve, right? Because on second serve, he's also going for the first. So, like, obviously, he's going to have a lot of double faults and not that many points won, I guess, on second serve. But he's one of the few players for whom it makes sense. Oh, and Pechi Pericard as well, right? I forgot about Pechi Pericard. He's kind of like the new submission to this, but I do also think that he has a better serve than Berrettini. Hachanov, Gerasimov, Echeverry, I think as well. Like it's not that Hachanov has a weak serve, right? It's just mediocre for his height, and I think it's the same with Echeverry. Echeverry, of course, he grew up on clay, and you kind of don't need to go for that flat bomb there a lot of the time. But yeah, he could also like just get so much more out of that. Gerasimov in general, I was talking about him to someone just yesterday. A friend of mine, Luke, he sometimes shows up on the channel as well. But basically, he said that like Gerasimov plays such a weird game because he's built, as he said, like a tree, but everything is so slow in a way. Like the pace doesn't really look fast when he plays, and that's true. Like he kind of caresses the ball, despite having like such physicality. Still got to the top 100, of course, and had some incredible results. This week he was fighting to get to US Open qualies. I don't think he's gonna like. I think he's currently in a spot where like he probably won't make it because he lost to Alvarez Varona. But yeah, I think his days of being at the top level are probably over. But yeah, what you said about his serve also kind of applies to his whole game, is what I'm trying to say. Gerasimov is right now, yeah, 257, so he definitely won't make it. Fair few players today, still in action, trying to make sure that they will get that US Open spot. Aziz Dugas in the Tampere quarterfinals, Escoffier in the Segovia quarterfinals, Delor in the Zug quarterfinals, Holt, Rincon, Gaubastin. If they keep winning, they might also get in. Bueno with a title in Verona, Kim with a title in Zug, Gran Cano with a title in Zug. So yeah, lots to play for in regards to that US Open deadline, which is this week. This week is the last one that counts. Gerasimov probably failed, given he lost to Alvarez Varona yesterday. Although he beat Alvarez Varona the week before in Pozoblanco. So, I guess what goes around comes around. Yeah, Yannick Hanfmann serving at 4-6. I will probably grab some water, but I'll be back with you in 10 seconds, literally. That's the sort of good thing about having a pretty small flat. Everything is essentially in one place. So I do not have to go anywhere to get myself water. I do not have to go anywhere to pee. I just do it on the floor. Of course I don't, but it's just right beside me as well. My bed is right beside me as well. Is the streaming zone. Anyway, Hanfmann starting the second set. Flash score analysis refer Gerasimov as a powerful server, which is ludicrous, says Peter. Karatsev historically struggles against elite servers. Just look how he handled Gerasimov. Yeah, when you were talking about Gerasimov, I was actually thinking about that match, Karatsev, Gerasimov. Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. It was like 90 minutes in Australia. I think Gerasimov won one game. But yeah, he's not the worst server in the world either, but yeah, certainly could be getting more out of it. I mean, when you have guys at like 6 feet, like Wawrinka especially, Kazo, Watanuki, Bellucci as well, like you just look at them, or even in the women's game, Rashpar Party, and you kind of look at how from their limited possibilities, they just sort of someone taught them to be just absolutely excellent in terms of their serving and just not really look like guys who are 6 feet at all. Then yeah, from that angle, I suppose it could be found as a little disappointing. Ooh, what was not disappointing at all is this Hanfmann drop volley here of the backhand. Beautiful stuff. And he takes the first game somewhat easily. We had this in the first set as well, right? Yannick won the first 2 games on serve to love. Then kind of things started getting more tricky, but who knows? He's still starting the second the second set. He's still in this. It's far from over. And yeah, we should not be treating this as if it's over, because it's definitely not. I'll finally get that water. I went for a bit of a long run this morning, so I am thirsty as hell. All right. Matteo Berrettini serving first in the second set. So far, just one breakpoint on his delivery, and that was saved with an ace. So he's not been struggling all that much. Would be such a massive step for Hanfmann to make this final. I mean, third ATP final, first in 4 years, first since this venue in 2020 as well. But also, what's really important is that he would actually have a very winnable matchup tomorrow, right, against Gaston or Diaz Acosta. So, but yeah, Berrettini today, of course, is not an easy opponent, and that's kind of the first thing on his mind right now. That's the first task he has to go through, and not Gaston Diaz Acosta, which, well, of course, wouldn't be a certainty that he gets it done, but he would be like at least 50-50 in these matchups. given his altitude clay prowess and how much he enjoys this part of the season specifically as well. We'll catch up on some of the other results in a second. I saw earlier that in the historic All Polish final in Prague, Linette was dominating in the first set, and it seems like she also got it done. I don't know if you guys saw it yesterday, but actually Linette was asking on Twitter like how to get to France when the sort of flying zone or something like that is going to be closed after their final. I'm pretty sure someone will organize it for them in you know in some way. But yeah, pretty funny that they have to think about that. But yeah, Linette dominated Frank 6-2, 6-1. Uh, I was not expecting her to be that decisive today. In fact, their only previous meeting it was Magda Frank who won. But well, Linette is the higher seeing player. That's I think not really debatable. Still a great achievement for Magda Frank to get her first final. A bit of a pressure moment from Berrettini, but once again, it's just an ace. When he needs it, he's coming up with that, especially down the tee today. He's been pretty sublime. Lots of matches starting at the challenger level as well. Would love to see that Parks Chwalinska Warsaw final if we're talking about 1-5s. But yeah, I think for the main tour, that's more or less it. That Andrieva Vanessian final is pretty late in the day, okay, so I probably will be able to catch it. And yeah, great stuff from Berrettini here again with the inside and forehand. So 1 game all in the second set. All right. Umag, of course, as I mentioned, much later in the day, 5 p.m. local time, I think, is when they're starting. And Atlanta, of course, as well, going to be much later, given that it's in the US time zone. Eastern time or whatever it is. I think it is Eastern time since it's on the East Coast in Georgia. Anyway, 1 game all. Yannick Hanfmann. Just gotta keep himself in front and try to cause some issues to Berrettini. He was actually in this game. Like this game, he was pressuring Matteo a bit. There was that 15-30 points that he won with this squash shot of the forehand, which is really good. And then, of course, yeah, an ace and a +1 winner on the line. Like not much you can do really. So but he makes these dents enough times, and maybe Matteo will crack at some point. We still haven't seen Berrettini like really struggle with any fatigue or anything like that. The fatigue from Gstaad, it's not really been a factor whatsoever so far in this run. If that continues to be the case, he definitely is the tournament favorite then. Although it would be fun to see him tackle Gaston or Diaz Acosta, not gonna lie. Gaston with that super tricky, weird play style where you like never really know who's gonna be vulnerable to it. Although power players do tend to like blast through him. And Diaz Acosta, probably a better game to handle Berrettini, right? Just more to say of the grounds. Pretty dangerous lefty. Well, I mean, let's say on clay at least, a potent lefty serve. Diaz Acosta could also be thrown into that example of like tall players who could be getting more out of their serves, especially not on clay. But yeah, 40 love for Hanfmann now. And this return is going to sail long as well. Kind of, well, of course he wasn't tanking it, but that was kind of a game where like Berrettini just had nothing to say, and most of his returns landed in the fence. Hi, Cedric. Hello, everybody. The German has won anything. On the main tour, he's got 2 finals. Who writes the summaries for Flashscore? I don't actually know. I think some of them are very weird for sure. Maybe they are written by AI, but it would be a pretty decent AI. Like the AI they used on at Wimbledon, the IBM AI, for example, was just like total trash. Like you would instantly just see that it's AI. But yeah, actually, Hanfmann has two main tour finals. Gstaad 2017 at this very venue, Kitzbühel 2020, but he lost both of them. Karatsev does tend to struggle against big servers. I would agree with that. Yeah. About Travaglia, I've seen Flash analysis talk about him having a powerful serve, but have only watched the odd match here and there. I thought of him as Berrettini light. Yeah, and I wouldn't say that, if I'm talking about Travaglia, the serve wouldn't really come to my mind, as one of the first five things. Like, it's perfectly fine. For the most part, I think he just has a super clean ball striking sort of ability. He's the whole game is so neat, and unfortunately, he's just been struggling with injuries the entire career. He actually has a great story if you want to read about it. It's like, there's definitely articles about it, but well, a great story, not from his perspective, but basically he had an injury. I don't remember if he like fell down the stairs or was it like something, car accident. I don't remember, but basically he injured his arm, and the doctors said that he can never play tennis again. And he spent a lot of years trying to get to the tour. But once he actually did, he was very competitive. He made a final, I think, in that Melbourne 250, losing to Sinner, if memory serves right. Was that Sinner's first title? Could have been. I don't actually remember where Sinner picked up his first title. Maybe in Sofia. Anyway, yeah, I think that he still has like these top 100 flashes, right? Last year he played a wonderful match against Menchik, but yeah, to me he's mostly just like a super clean ball striker and a smart player as well off the ground. But Berrettini light and a powerful serve, like yeah, no, it's just not really a thing. I mean, Travaglia definitely has a decent first serve, but it's not really like the cornerstone of his game now. I think it's just like the cornerstone of his game is just being like super smooth, really, which sounds weird, but yeah, it's just so all rounded and everything is so crisp. But yeah, recently, especially after the most recent wave of injuries, he's just been struggling to be consistent with it. Like literally, he only peaks a few times a year. Last year it was that Menchik match in Modena for sure. That was just astonishing the way he played there. But of course, in the second round, he just delivered a horrible performance against Kashnikovsky. And then also the US Open qualies, right? He actually got through US Open qualies last year, which is a bit forgotten. But yeah, that was a good example of, again, Stefano peaking and getting a very good result even at this stage of his career. But yeah, now it looks like his career is more or less over. I think in Koblenz in February he was in the semifinals. He lost to Rodionov, but it didn't really like kickstart him or anything. Like yeah, nothing is happening. But he had a decent run. I mean, considering all that history and sort of the accident that he had when he was like 20 and all the years that he spent kind of grinding away at the ITF level to finally get to the tour, to make a final, to stay in the top 100 for quite a long while. I think there's a lot to like about how his career went at some point, at least, about how his career was going. Berrettini Light is his brother, Jacopo. I think like it's kind of the same play style, just not with the same weaponry, and without the slice. Jacopo Berrettini does not play the slice, but you could call him Berrettini Light if you just think about the serve and forehand. Really, he kind of hammer it a bit sometimes. Another drop shot from Hanfmann that Berrettini can't quite get to. As we are starting. Not on the ATP Tour, actually. Only two finals from him: 2020 Kitzbühel lost to Kecmanovic, and 2017 Gstaad lost to Fonini. On the Challenger Tour, of course, he's won about 10, I think. I'm not really. I would have to check. I don't know if it's like 10, 12, or 8, but it's somewhere in the vicinity. But on the main tour, he's got 2 finals, and that's it, losing to Fonini and Kecmanovic. Both of them in this altitude clay swing, or well, let's say double, because it's not a swing, right? I mean, if it's just 2 events, it's not a swing. But yeah. Yeah, I know what I wanted to check. How many challenger titles Hanfmann has? I think it's somewhere around 10, but I'm actually kind of angry at myself that I don't remember. Like my gut tells me 12, but that's too much. I think I don't like that's too many. Yeah, it's even only 6. Okay, yeah, never mind then. As I said, I was really sure. Well, I guess he missed a few years, or missed. I mean, he was playing in college and was part of that extremely strong University of Southern California lineup with Steve Johnson and the likes. Emilio Gomez, I think at the time as well, was there. Daniel Nien, Raymond Sarmiento. But yeah, Hanfmann with another good game, 3-2 up. First set, if you remember, went. It was the fifth game when he got broken. This time he avoids a similar, let's say, fate. And let's see. So far, he is keeping at it, keeping the pressure up, and well, hoping that Berrettini will crack at some point. Hoping there will be an opening on return, and not when it's late like last time, right? When the opening was essentially just when the set was almost done already. Yeah, that one-handed pass attempt from Berrettini here. I wasn't talking about it because it's not that close. It wasn't that close, but if it went in, pretty fun. Some players can pull it off on a regular basis. Martin Fucovic, for example, he often switches to a one-hander on the backhand pass. Matteo, it's a bit more tricky. And of course, Joe Whitfield Tsonga was also pretty famous for it. Tsonga was doing it a lot on like a lot of situational balls. Tsonga kinda a bit of a I think he's a bit of a comparison for Berrettini as well in that sense of the big hole that they backhands carry. I guess they just had different ideas as to how to get out of it. Like, yeah, Tsonga tried to go for the one hand there on some passes, lobs, and stuff. Whereas Berrettini is just slicing away, and on some surfaces, it's extremely um, efficient and very tricky to play against. Another ace from the Italian, or us, since we are in Kitzbühel. Someone was telling me the other day that his friends have a house in Kitzbühel, like a summer house or like a vacation house rather, because what I'm trying to say is that they don't go there in the summer at all, and they just go there in the winter to ski. So technically, maybe they could host him there in Kitzbühel. And I said, I mean, go for it. I don't think he did go for it though. I think he stayed in Poland this year at least. So it's like a summer home, but it's actually a winter home. I guess that term exists as well. There's also a nursing home, but that actually serves a very different purpose. And a retirement home, but that's pretty much the same. Well, almost. Anyway, never mind. Hanfmann trying to get himself into this game gets 1 point, drawing out the error from Berrettini in a relatively extended baseline exchange. Berrettini has, of course, claimed back-to-back titles before on the ATP Tour. That was Queens and Stuttgart in 2022. The other way around, Stuttgart and Queens. On grass, was it a bit easier? Maybe. You could make that case. After that, of course, Matteo was one of the main favorites for Wimbledon, given he won 10 matches in a row on grass, and also in 2021 was the runner-up there. But he didn't end up playing it due to COVID, so that was brutal. And yeah, 3 games all. Another quick hold for the Italian. Ball change coming up. Both players are switching their rackets. I think we're using Polat balls here, so obviously not that popular on the tour. So they're still sticking with that ball change every event thing. Matteo saying sorry for some reason. Did he not realize that Yannick was also changing his racket? Maybe. Or maybe that was just a reaction to Hanfmann showing him that it's new balls. I don't know. Anyway, 3 games all. Let's see how these new balls affect Hanfmann in this service game, and can he just keep himself up on the scoreboard in the second set. This rally is already pretty entertaining, and it's going to be Berrettini winning it with a pretty decent backhand cross. With the slice, he forced Hanfmann to lift the ball a bit, and then he got that backhand into his favorite contact point, really. The many ways in which Matteo Berrettini uses the slice can be sometimes a bit of a marvel for sure. Sometimes, well, especially to set up big forehands after that. But even that was a really nice combo. Just getting that loopier ball from Hanfmann and then firing at the backhand height that he was comfortable with. This is another point that he gets. I can't quite credit this point to him, despite the fact that the slice lured out the error. Hanfmann probably still could have done a much better job. He's definitely frustrated with his effort here. Could be 18 sets in a row won by Berrettini if he gets this game and the set. Which would be probably more impressive. Well, I mean, probably a longer streak than that Queen's Stuttgart one I mentioned, right? I mean, I have to check, but I think he was losing sets there. In Queens, he definitely beat Krajinovic in the final that year. Thinking the semis could have been 3 sets. I don't know. Anyway, let's see the rally first, and if he even gets to breakpoints here from love 30. But given that he's in the rally now, it looks relatively, it looks very possible now that Hanfmann loses another backhand cross-court exchange with Berrettini. That's kind of something he cannot afford to be doing, right? I mean, if you're playing Matteo Berrettini and you're losing the backhand exchanges with him, how are you really planning to win? Is probably one of the questions you should ask yourself. Yeah, some really good ball striking off the ground for Berrettini here. Looks like his fitness has gotten to a better point now, given that, earlier in the year when he was trying to go back to back, it was a big struggle, and it's not so far this week. But the first breakpoint won't be converted. He got into the rally, but just misses that forehand slice, I believe. Let me see that 2022 run that he had on grass. Yeah, he was dropping sets there. It was 9 matches, actually, not 10. Yeah, I was thinking if he was seeded in Stuttgart, probably had to be, given he had an Australian Open semi and a Wimbledon final on his ranking. But yeah, he was dropping sets there. It was actually the second round in Queens that he dropped the set in against Kudla, but in Stuttgart he was dropping a lot against Albot, Sonego, and Murray in the final. Yeah, so not quite as sort of dominant as so far in this Stadt Kitzbühel double. I think it's a double fault from Hanfmann, though. Yeah, that's nasty. 6-4, 4-3, and Berrettini is just 2 holes away, just 2 games away from winning the match and securing another final, securing his 9th win in a row, securing his 18th set in a row. Again, just kind of random game from Hanfmann, right? That 2-all break in the first set was similar, where suddenly there's a lot of rallying, and he's not really winning these. Like when his serve isn't doing damage, he's not really dominating Berrettini off the ground. I mean, you shouldn't probably expect him to dominate Berrettini off the ground, but in these 2 games, at the very least, he hasn't really had much to say, and that's making his life significantly tougher, I would say. Yeah, I'm thinking if Berrettini ever won 2 events in a row other than that Stuttgart Queens run, but I don't think so, right? 2018 in Gstaad and Kitzbühel, he lost to Jari in the quarters, so he went 7 wins in a row. Oh, right, he also tried in Budapest, Munich, 2019, right? I forgot about that. And he won Budapest, but lost in the Munich final to Christian Garin. So almost completed another clay double. Pretty close in Stuttgart Halle in 2019 too, but that would have required him to beat Federer in the final, even if he beat Goffin. And is that all the opportunities that he's had for something like that? Actually, almost won Belgrade and Madrid back to back as well in 2021, winning in Belgrade and then in Madrid getting to the final, losing to Alexander Zverev. Almost won Queen's Club and Wimbledon, although these events, both Belgrade and Madrid, and also Queen's Club and Wimbledon, they had a week of break between each other, right? But still, like, yeah, he almost won Queen's Club and Wimbledon back to back in 2021 too, getting to the final and losing to Novak. So yeah, I guess he's had quite a few attempts at going back to back on the main tour that reached the final. So it wouldn't be the first time. It's just different because this year, of course, after the injury, he was struggling with his fitness for quite a while. And in some events, he just wasn't looking like a guy who could potentially do it. But right now, he seems to be back in very good physical shape. Let's see if he can hold from here, though. He needs 2 games. Of course, can also break Hanfmann in the next game to clean it up faster. But yeah, so far the serving here and this 4-3 game has been pretty spectacular as well. So I guess it will be the third time if he makes the final. It will be the third time he has that chance for back-to-back titles in back-to-back weeks. But in the year of 2021, he also had these 2 opportunities to win 2 events in a row, but they were separated with a week of rest, I suppose. But yeah, this is another rapid game for Matteo, 5-3. So yeah, let's see if Yannick Hanfmann can extend this match and give us at least one more change of ends. Not a particularly disappointing performance from Yannick so far, I think, but just kinda, yeah, these 2 lackluster games. Only breakpoint he had, Berrettini found an ace. It hasn't been particularly spectacular either, right? Hasn't been awful, but hasn't been anything special too. And I know, he's facing a player of much stronger quality, but I don't know. If he's not beating Berrettini here, sort of trying to go back to back and in favorite conditions of Hanfmann, then he's probably never beating him, right? Like the potential sort of circumstances will not really line up better for Hanfmann than they are lining up here. Ooh, and while I was saying earlier that Yannick Hanfmann is avoiding approaching to the Berrettini forehand, he did not avoid it here. Another good chip from Matteo, actually. So the block return has to be praised. But then the forehand on the run, Hanfmann's laughing about it. I think he's just like, yeah, why did I approach the forehand? What am I doing? But, uh, well, it seemed like the natural choice. Sometimes you just forget that you're playing Berrettini and you simply go there because it's a good play against 95% other players, really. But not in this case. And once more, we are in a rally, so Hanfmann really has to save himself here. Most of these points like this, he's been losing. But here he's actually doing pretty well. Yeah, lifting that backhand a bit of the Berrettini slice, but never really allowing Matteo to crack it. Still keeping him in the backhand jail, and eventually gets the slice error. Whew, I mean, nothing is easy for Hanfmann in this game again. But this time the backhand ball striking is actually pretty good. Now he's actually out rallying Berrettini in these backhand exchanges, which is, well, kind of the prerequisite, I think, for him to win this match. Of course, by now it's, well, the only prerequisite is just holding and then breaking, but just in general. And yeah, 30 all now. So still hopes to extend this match, Yannick. Gives Berrettini a higher ball here, but Matteo doesn't fully crack it and is going to be on the defense again with the slice. Funky point here that there's a couple of shots that they kind of had to play with weirder contact point, I would say, than usual. Berrettini just barely picking up that one of them with the forehand. But actually, it's a match point for him now. He recovered pretty well. Like the defense from Berrettini was great. The forehand squash shot, and then instantly when he gets the ball into the same direction, he smashes the forehand cross court winner. And again, Hanfmann is like doing this, just face palming really. And I think again he's just thinking, why did I go at the forehand? Why do I give him uh, the ball exactly how he wants it, especially with that sort of height and oh my, this is very close to Hanfmann losing this match now. I want to see a replay of this shot. What? What? I mean, yeah, he approached the net, sure. The replay is here now. Last one, forehand, decent volley, fine. But then Berrettini tries to lob him through the backhand, and Hanfmann is kind of skyhooking it. The match point down. Wow, that's a great shot. If he is to go out here, I mean, he might as well go out in style, right? And that was definitely stylish. I don't actually know if he could have just maybe run around it a little bit, but anyway, it might not save him in this game as Berrettini finds a great forehand return at his feet now, so it's gonna be a second match point. And let's see. Yannick Hanfmann at the backhand of Berrettini this time. Once again, has Matteo on the back foot, but the Italian is keeping it a bit tricky. However, the backhand pass will not clear the net. So 2 match points saved already by Hanfmann. Again, the forehand squash shot defense from Matteo is actually pretty good. I mean, it's clay court, I know, but given that it's that altitude, that's altitude and like kind of just faster, slicker conditions a bit, it's really making all these defensive shots from Matteo so much more threatening and so much more unpleasant for Hanfmann to potentially crack it, to potentially follow up to the net. So you can see why Matteo is so effective in these conditions. Can you actually see why Hanfmann is so effective in these conditions in this match? A little bit. It's a good second serve, but he dumps the +1 forehand into the net, getting very angry at himself right now, smashing his hand at the thigh, not the Andrei Rublev violent sort of way, but more, well, not playfully, but just less aggressive. What a kick serve. This is the Hanfmann special again. First serve, he goes for it, at the Berrettini back, and maybe you should have seen more of that in this match on the outside. I mean, not like he was not holding easily for the most part, but I don't know. It just seems like the perfect play against Matteo as well. What is he gonna do um, of that backhand wing when the ball is just so like kicking him so far out of the doubles alley? I think the ball is in. Matteo was probably doubting if it's going to be, and it's gonna be advantage Hanfmann now after saving 3 break points, 3 match points. In fact, I should say. Of course, they were break points, but they were also match points. Yeah, that slice will not quite swirl into the court, let's say. And Mr. Yannick Hanfmann, advantage up now. Again, a kick serve, and he's gonna get the point. 6-4-5-4. Again, the kick serve to the Matteo backhand. I mean, it's your special, it's your trademark. Maybe you should have gone for that a bit more in the actual match, not when it's over. But anyway, 6-4-5-4. After the break, we'll have Matteo Berrettini serving for the win. But don't go anywhere yet. May I remind you that in the second match that Berrettini played in this event against Alejandro Tabilo, he was pretty close to losing the second set after being in that position. So perhaps it's not over yet. It ain't over till it's over. There's a tennis player that has that in his Twitter bio. I don't remember who it is. Maybe Menchik? It's definitely like one of these youngsters. I saw it just a couple of days ago. Might be Menchik, but I don't want to lie to you. I do. I can end the stream, John. Yes, absolutely. Have I seen the news on the trains in Paris? No. What is the news? If I Google it, will I find it? Trains in Paris. Why am I typing Google into Google? Jesus. And I didn't even do it like the total dumb way. Like I didn't type Google by itself. I typed Google trains in Paris. French rail lines disrupted by coordinated sabotage. Okay. Arson attack. Yeah, arson is target Paris. Yeah, unfortunately, right? The Olympics such a massive event, so it will always bring some nuts who try to tell us something or maybe just are having fun at it. Of course, it's not the first time that we've had incidents, some of them extremely brutal, like 1972 Munich, right? Um, so unfortunately, that's kind of the risk that they're running. But my parents were actually in Paris just like 2 weeks ago, and they said that already there's like a lot prepared there, and there's some places where they are searching you even. So I know that some precautions were definitely there, but well, apparently in this case they didn't work. But yeah, if you're hosting the Olympics, you have to be ready for everything basically, including some of the more uh, stupid acts of people who, yeah, I don't know, just want to share something with the world, I guess, in that way, or maybe just want to hurt people. Who knows? Inside in forehand from Berrettini, 30 love up, 6-4, 5-4, 30 love. So 2 points away only. Still 2 points away, but just 30-15 now. Nice serve in. There's gonna be a forehand drop shot, and it's way too good. Of course, it's kind of just the overall game of Berrettini that makes you question yourself here, right? Even though he was maybe looking like he could line up for the dropper 2 points ago, he literally in the same spot he hit a forehand inside in. The coach of Berrettini shows him a thumbs up, but yeah, it's a good play, of course. 40-15, too much points for Matteo to get to the final. He's actually 8-0 in ATP Tour clay court semifinals, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So could be 9-0 after today. Still not yet done as Hanfmann approaches at the Berrettini forehand, but doesn't get burned this time. The ball clips the tape, really. Matt stays on Berrettini's side. But this will be good enough. This will be another forehand drop shot. This time Hanfmann getting to it, but not quite getting it over the net. Warm handshake between the two guys, more of a hug actually. They're laughing about something as well. Matteo gets it done, 6-4, 6-4. No tie breaks this time, so his tiebreak counter won over the last 2 weeks is now at his match counter as well. 9 wins, 9 tiebreaks won. 11 aces, 88% of points won on first serve. 2 out of 8 breakpoints converted. I think he won 2 out of 4 games when he had breakpoints, but it was more than good enough as Hanfmann only generated one and Matteo found an ace on it. In terms of like tactics and anything, like it's tough to talk about much really here. Matteo was just serving extremely well and also putting a lot of pressure in the return games with the squash shots, with how good he was on the defense and kind of keeping the ball unpleasant to Hanfmann, holding up okay in these backhand cross court exchanges as well, which is not a given with him, of course. And yeah, tomorrow in the final, he will play either Facundo Diaz Acosta or Hugo Gaston, where he will be the favorite, but both players have certain ways, let's say, of making it a bit tricky for Matteo. Let's be honest about that. Are they better at altitude than Hanfmann? Maybe the same level, right? And yes, that will be more or less it from me today. I think there's also that Wimbledon doubles review coming up for you guys later today, alongside a doubles Olympics preview. I'm not really sure who's doing that. Probably Handel and Will, I would assume, but we'll see. Anyway, make sure to tune into that. We'll obviously have a lot of content coming from the Olympics as well. Myself, John is already in Porto. I will be going there sort of Saturday/Sunday, so we will be in Porto next week as well, bringing you guys some stuff from there. And yeah, let's keep watching tennis. Let's keep talking tennis, and I'll see you guys around. Bye. Forza Matteo, as Ma says. Yeah, Matteo into another final, back-to-back weeks, almost back-to-back titles. Thank you. See you Sunday, John. Yes.